evening, everyone. Welcome. I'd like to call the Hammond Redevelopment Commission meeting to order on this Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. It is now 4:30. The meeting will begin. Can you please stand for a pledge of allegiance and a quick moment of silence after?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Cynthia, can we get a roll call?
Tomich.
Here.
Kubaki.
Here.
Mosley Shelton.
Here.
Myricks.
Here.
Hopridge.
Here. For the record, all 5 are present. Number 3, declaration of conflict of interest. Okay, number 4, communications.
None were received.
Okay. Brings us to number 5, our minutes dating March 5th, 2024.
Mr. President, if there are no corrections to the meeting for March 5th, 2024, I move to accept the minutes as is.
I'll make a motion to second.
Okay. Motion's been made by Commissioner Tolman, second by Commissioner Kubaki. Let's have roll call.
Tomich.
Yes.
Kubaki.
Yes.
Mosley Shelton.
Yes.
Myricks.
Yes.
Hopridge.
Yes, motion passes 5 yes. Number 6, approval of agreement to purchase real estate for real property commonly known as 1301 Highland Street.
Commissioners, you may recall that our commission has been working towards this day for a while now. We are repurposing an underutilized park in Hammond called Memorial Park into a housing and senior housing living facility neighborhood. We will also have single-family homes available for purchase later, but for now, we are considering a purchase agreement between the Hammond Redevelopment Commission and Gorman and Company, LLC. We received a bid from them a little over a month ago to purchase 2 parcels on the site. One is about a 3-acre parcel, and that is dedicated for a senior living facility with about 118 units. And the other parcel is about 1.7 acres, and upon that parcel, some duplexes will be built. This is a very exciting time for us. The city recognizes the need for new housing stock and new housing options in our older city. It will bring new residents and new people to Hammond that might not have come before if not for this new development. I know in the audience we have a couple members of the development team, and we also have some of the development team on Zoom. I do see Ron Kluwer. I've been connecting with Ron from Gorman and Company for a while now. Ron, would you like to say a few more things about the development?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to talk to you tonight about the Memorial Park development. We were excited to be chosen and look forward to working with the City of Hammond to do community outreach to finalize the project. But as we submitted, it was more of a vision in the RFP. Gorman and Company is a national developer in your backyard, or at least close to your backyard. We have a couple of projects in Chicago. We also have one that we concluded in Gary, Indiana last year, senior high-rise in partnership with the Gary Housing Authority. But this particular project has really been the brainchild and driven by a good friend and partner, Reverend, who's in the audience, as I believe Pastor Polk should be there in person with you, and perhaps Vance is with him. But they brought this idea forward to us, some time ago. We understood the process and the RFP process. We're excited to come to the vision collectively with the pastor and his team, which is 120 senior apartments, both studio and 1-bedroom apartments, on the larger parcel that you heard, and then also on the smaller parcel, While duplex units could be placed on the parcel, we also did show a rendering with potentially fourplex units, which gives another product type that could be used for seniors or others. And we wanted to work through that with the city to find out what their best interests would be. But that was a vision that was presented, and I think it is a solid vision based on input we got. But part of our process, I think, holds true to what the mayor told folks back in the Memorial Park meeting earlier this year, which was there will be more opportunities for the community to weigh in. And so when we do design, we're not necessarily doing design by committee, but we are doing design by community input. And so taking what features and benefits for a property are important to residents or potential residents, and especially neighbors, what those are and what they may, how they may fit to the project. So, assuming we come to terms on this purchase and sale agreement, those will be our next steps, is to engage with the community and get ready to do a finance application later this year, July to be exact. So, more about us. As I said, we are, a national developer with presence in Illinois and Indiana, and also have done more than 160 developments of this nature, many of them focused on seniors or special needs populations. And, many of them are award-winning developments that have been developed through this process of community engagement. So about 12,000 rental units and about a $2.5 billion market value of those units. So we're excited for the opportunity, happy to answer any questions. I think there in your packet you should have the RFP, or at least the responses, and I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. I have a 6 o'clock city council meeting in another community that is about 2 hours from Hammond, so I had to be closer to that given the weather. So they did not have virtual options, so I had to make a choice. I apologize, I'm not there in person. I don't know if the pastor would like to say anything.
Yes, Pastor Polk and Mr. Kenny, if you would like to come up and say a few words. Thank you. And thank you, Ron.
Really would just like to thank the city for considering this dream, this effort was born out of need, and it came from me relocating my mother-in-law here several years ago, and it took like a year and a half to find housing for her. And one thing led to another, and I saw vacant space, and the rest is God giving vision and the city at a point of cooperation. So we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what you're being asked to approve tonight is this purchase agreement, and as indicated, there's a closing date which is approximately a year off, and the reason for that I think is kind of twofold. Number one, the developer has to do some due diligence items that they need to take care of prior to actually closing. But also, you'll see in the purchase agreement there is a provision in there that, and I think it was as indicated, community input is going to be received, and the city's contingency in selling it is that we approve the final design, layout, etc. So I really see this purchase agreement as kind of a partnership moving forward, and kind of an indication from the city that we want to move forward with this particular developer. I don't see a closing for a while, but I certainly think, they need the purchase agreement to get the due diligence going and to do some of that stuff, so this would be your first step.
Excuse me.
If I may add as well, I just wanted to add something after Pastor Polk spoke. because we do have two other Gorman team members on the phone here. I just want to introduce them because they'll be pivotal in that the community engagement piece. We have Dan Omar on, who is the market architect. He heads up both Indiana and Illinois and takes care of all development design, and would be influential and instrumental in turning the community input into designs that, you know, meet hopefully the city's approval. So we have Dan. And then the other is Gavin Namey, who will be assisting me. He's our development manager, and we just brought him on this week actually to help because of these expanded projects and the work that we have before us. He comes with a great deal of experience working for other developers, as well as accounting firm that we work very intimately with, which is Baker Tilly. So he understands the development process fully. Just adds additional capacity to our team. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just like to add to this project will definitely enhance the current neighborhood there. So, you know, housing prices have gone up, and this should even up the homes there even more with this project.
Mr. President, if there's no further questions, I would like to make a motion for the approval of the agreement to purchase real estate for real property commonly known as 1301 Highland Street.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Tolman, second by Commissioner Myrick. There's no further questions or discussion. Roll call, please.
Talmadge.
Yes.
Kubaki.
Yes.
Mosley Shelton.
Yes.
Myrick.
Yes.
Poppridge.
Yes, motion passes 5 yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for taking the time just to zoom in. We understand the other commitments.
No worries, and I hope you guys are not getting snow down there. So the rest of your meeting, good luck and thank you. I'm assuming you'd prefer we jump off?
You may do so. Thank you.
Okay, have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let's move on then. Number 7 is a ratification of settlement agreement, referring to 7815 Chestnut.
Members of the commission, so to back up, when a piece of property comes tax delinquent, I think you're all at least somewhat familiar with, the county offers it for sale. There's a process by which it offers it for sale several times, and if it doesn't get sold, then the county holds the certificate. The agreement we have with the county is that if the city is interested, the county will then donate the property to the city, and with the idea that the city will either then sell it and put it back on the tax rolls by selling it to a private entity, maybe depending on the status of the property, could be demolishing, could be redeveloping or whatever. But the agreement we have with the county is that if they donate a piece of property to us and the owner then all of a sudden surfaces and says they want the property back and they can fix whatever issues are with that property, that the city will then transfer the donated property back to the owner on the condition that the owner pay the taxes that were due and owing, so that the county doesn't get stiffed on their tax liability. That's what happened in this case. The owner did appear. The owner indicated and has paid all the back taxes to the city. The city is transferring the property back to the owner, and we will transfer the tax money to the county. So that's basically what we're asking you to ratify that agreement with number 7.
Mr. President, if there's no further discussion or any questions, I make a motion for the ratification of the settlement agreement for 718 Chestnut.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Myrick, second by Commissioner Talmadge. It's the ratification of settlement agreement referring to 7815 Chestnut. Let's have a roll call, please.
Tomich,
Yes.
Kubaki,
Yes.
Mosley Shelton,
Yes.
Myrick,
Yes.
Hopbridge.
Yes, motion passes 5 yes. Okay, number 8's authorization to resolve a tax dispute.
Okay, so on this one, and I'm going to have to take you into the Wayback Machine. In 2011, the city, the Redevelopment Commission, and the Economic Development Commission entered into a development agreement with an entity called Potash. And it's right there on Columbia?
Indianapolis.
Between Indianapolis and Columbia there by the railroad.
You can enter through off of Summer Street.
Yeah. So they built approximately a $90 million storage facility that would store their aggregate potash, which is a type of fertilizer. As part of that development agreement, we sold bonds in the in the exact amount of $10 million, and that was the economic incentive for the project. The bonds were to be paid through the Hammond Central TIF through their property tax. Then, fast forward about 6 years, in 2017, the Indiana legislature decided, for environmental reasons and policy concerns, and really probably more so for the southern part of the state than Hammond area, that if an entity put fertilizer under roof instead of storing it outside, they could get a 100% deduction on their property tax. And the idea is we don't want this stuff being stored outside and with the elements, right? So in 2018, and it's a 100% real property deduction. Now, obviously, in 2011, when we entered into a development agreement that was contingent on them paying property taxes, we did not know that 6 years later, the legislature would change the law. In 2018, Potash applied for that fertilizer deduction, and it was finally received by them in 2021. But because their application was filed in 2018, there was a retroactive application which called for a refund of some of the taxes they had paid along the way. Short story is that when they received it, or when they applied for that deduction in 2018, we made a claim against Potash for violation or breach of the development agreement, because we took the position that we would have never issued a development agreement if you were somehow going to get out of paying your property tax. We were never giving you that incentive. Now, it's clearly a good faith dispute. It's a taxpayer that is saying, well, none of us knew what was going to happen 6 years later, and therefore we should be entitled to this deduction. With the deduction, Potash saves about $3.4 million over the life of the bond that was issued. And the city's negotiated with Potash, their subsequent company, and in light of our claim over the development agreement, we've negotiated where they're going to pay us $3.1 million. So our damages were roughly 3.4. We negotiated it to 3.1, and the payment is going to be over the same period of time that it would have been paid. So some of the refund is coming back right away, and then some of it is like $150,000 a year for the next X number of years. So it was a good faith, like I said, it was a good faith dispute over what their filing of the deduction would mean to our Hammond Central TIF. This certainly puts money back in the TIF that would otherwise drain the TIF. If we were to litigate it to the end, because it's kind of a novel set of facts and certainly a unique legal question, because you have a law that comes in after the fact, I couldn't guarantee an outcome of what a court would do with this. So I mean, if we go to court, the upside's 3.4, the downside's 0. And we've negotiated it to 3.1 over roughly the same period of time that we would get that 3.1 if the development agreement was in place. So we are recommending and we're asking that you authorize the city to move forward. And the reason we have to get the approval of the redevelopment commission is because you were the entity that approved the development agreement and the bonds, and you were the ones most responsible for it. So in order to resolve this dispute, we need your authorization, and that's what we would ask for.
Yeah, it was unforeseen, well, 6 years ago, like you said, and
Well, and I can tell you that since 2018, and Mr. Sender's in the audience, and he and I have run these numbers. Well, he's run them and ad nauseum had to explain them to me multiple times because it is confusing. And I didn't go to law school to look at numbers like that. But we have, since 2018, since this issue has come up, we have inserted paragraphs in our development agreement that says basically, we don't care what the law is 10 years from now. You're paying this. And whether you get a deduction, you can't even apply for any deduction that you know of now or may come up in the future. But in 2011, there was no way to know that the state would pass that law in 2017. I mean,
right.
It was almost a crazy set of circumstances.
I think at 3.1, recovering to take your chance to go all the way is,
Well, and it would probably cost, I mean, you had bond counsel involved, so they would have to be involved in the lawsuit. You had myself, Kevin Smith. I mean, it's easily a six-figure attorney fee case.
sure,
So it's a net zero anyway.
right.
Although I'm arguing myself out of a job, but the prudent thing to do would be to accept this agreement.
I appreciate that, Attorney Westland, going back those years to recall this. So,
Well, Mr. President, there's no further discussion or any questions. I make a motion for the authorization to resolve the taxes.
Second.
okay, a motion's been made by Commissioner Myrick, seconded by Commissioner Tomich. If there's no further questions for Attorney Westland, let's have a roll call.
Tomich,
Yes.
Kubaki,
Yes.
Mosley Shelton,
Yes.
Myrick,
Yes.
Poppert.
Yes, motion passes with 5 yes. Okay, number 9 is an amendment to agreement for intermission for an extension to use funds.
Good evening, Commissioners. Nancy Hoppers from Community Development. Before you, I am just requesting intermission is requesting an extension until October 31st to draw the funds down. Their balance is $28,000. Our fiscal year with them is April 1st to March 31st. And they notified me that they are not able to draw all the funds down and asked for an extension.
And the extension is until October 31st of this year.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Seems pretty simple. We're just asking for additional time.
If there's no further questions, I'd like to make a motion for the amendment to the agreement for intermission for extension to use funds.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Tomich, second by Commissioner Myrick. There's no further discussion? Roll call.
Tomich,
Yes.
Kubaki,
Yes.
Mosley Shelton,
Yes.
Myrick,
Yes.
Poppert.
Yes, motion passes, 5 yes. Thank you.
Commission.
Thank you.
Okay, number 10 is a TIF annual report for 2023, overlapping taxing units report. We have Carl Sender here.
Yes, good evening. Carl Sender from Sender Dalton Municipal Advisors. Good evening, members of the commission. Each year, we're required to be here before you to give an annual report and highlight some of the significant things that are affecting your TIF districts that are also called allocation areas. So I'm going to give you, I think in your packet is the complete report. I'm going to try to just highlight some of the main items for you, and we won't go page by page, but page 2 lists specifically the things that we are to include in the report, including listing commission members and employees, cash balances, revenue and expenditures, our outstanding debt obligations that are being repaid through tax increment financing revenues, and then a listing of all the TIF parcels. The second part of the report has, we call it the overlapping units report. So any of the affected taxing units, including the county, the township, the school, the city, we're also required to present certain information, and we'll go over that here shortly. So page 3 just lists the members of the Redevelopment Commission from last year. And I should also note that following your acceptance of this report, parts of this report get uploaded to the Department of Local Government Finance Gateway website so that it's available for public record. So we'll be listing all the members. Page 4 is a listing of the commission employees and their salaries. Page 5 is the distribution of tax increment revenues for 2023. And I'll just note that we get our tax increment revenue 2 times a year. The first came in June for $4,827,591. The second installment in December, $4,666,373, for a total of $9,493,964. And this is for all of our allocation areas. Page 6 shows kind of a chart just to show the percent of each of the revenues for each of the allocation areas. Then pages 7 through 12 lists all the outstanding debt that's being repaid through the use of tax increment revenue where you've pledged the use of TIF. It also shows what the outstanding principal amounts and what the remaining life on the bonds are. Page 13 then is a summary of our beginning cash balance, total revenues for each of the allocation areas, disbursements, and ending cash balance. I'm just going to highlight the totals for all of our allocation areas. We had started the year at $17,080,389. We had total revenues of $10,080,765. Total disbursements of $8,953,917. Ending cash balance of $18,207,236. We also list that we did not grant or loan tax increment to another entity during the year. And we'll get into the budget in the overlapping units report. Pages 15 through 19 just lists a summary of all the resolutions you considered during the year. And then the next section is the overlapping units report. And beginning on page 21, we're basically to present what the budget is for each of the allocation areas, what the long-term plans are for the allocation areas, and the tax impact for each of the taxing units. Pages, I should say, on Exhibit A, page 24 is the budget. It's kind of an informal budget. We have basically budgeting the expected tax increment revenue for each of the allocation areas, and then a very high-level budget for each of the allocation areas, including the debt service on the obligations being funded through TIF. So our total budgeted expenditures is approximately $10,266,906. I will just remind the commission that there was a change in the law that by December 1 of each year, you'll need to adopt a more formal spending plan for each of the allocation areas. And so I envision later in the year, Ann and we'll work together to come up with a more formal spending plan so we meet the new statutory requirements that be presented. I think you know that TIF is a tool to help for economic development and redevelopment, and so these allocation areas were established in order to collect the revenues to accomplish some of the goals of further redevelopment and economic development. And as such, we've issued debt, and so many of these will not expire until the bonds are paid off. The tax impact is kind of an interesting phenomena that they ask us to present, and we just show kind of if you never captured any of the increment, and for all the allocation areas for 23 pay 24, it's the increment captured is $284,786,836. So we kind of show what is the impact on the tax rate had the allocation areas not been presented or been established. And as we all know, that because you did these incentives, that many businesses came to the area and grew. And so you had further development. So without the TIF, you may not have had this kind of growth. So I kind of say that tongue in cheek that we've done the tax impact, but it's maybe not necessarily a true statement because a lot of the growth would not be here if it weren't for these tools that you've implemented. So in total, we show that the rate could be decreased by a total of 24, almost 25 cents if none of the areas were established. And all we're to do is to present this in the report for the affected overlapping units. The last section then, we're to include a list of all the individual components, each parcel for each of the allocation areas. And I will not read through all of those, but those are on pages 27 through 50. And with that, that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
No, thank you, Carl. Very well put together. Appreciate your, I just, one comment, just get with Ann as early as you can to formalize things, you know.
And this report, upon your approval, will also be forwarded to the legislative body of the city of Hammond as well. It's also a requirement that it gets included in their packet.
Okay.
Mr. President, if there's no further questions, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the TIF annual report for 2023 and overlapping taxing units report.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Mr. Tomich, second by Commissioner Shelton. Let's have a roll call, please.
Tomich?
Yes.
Kubaki?
Yes.
Mosley Shelton?
Yes.
Myricks?
Yes.
Hoppridge?
Yes, motion passes with 5 yes. Okay, thank you, everyone. Number 11 is approval of resolution number 2024-05, a resolution of the Hammond Redevelopment Commission concerning the 2025 budget year determination for tax increment for Hammond Redevelopment Commission allocation areas.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of resolution number 2024-05, resolution of the Hammond Redevelopment Commission concerning the 2025 budget year determination tax increment for the Hammond Redevelopment Commission allocation areas.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Myrick, second by Commissioner Tomich. Roll call, please.
Tomich?
Yes.
Kubaki?
Yes.
Mosley Shelton?
Yes.
Myricks?
Yes.
Hoppridge?
Yes, motion passes 5 yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Okay, number 12 is our bills, register of claims. Should have gotten a final revised piece there.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for the claims beginning with claims dated 3/4/24 and ending with claims dated 4/2/24, claim number R65071 through R65252 inclusive.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Tomich, second by Commissioner Myrick. That's for claims dating March 4th, 2024 through March 27th, 2024, claim R65071 through claim R65252 inclusive. Is there any additional questions on these claims for staff? Okay, then roll call, please.
Tomich.
Yes.
Kubaki.
Yes.
Mosley Shelton.
Yes.
Myrick.
Yes.
Hubbard.
Yes, motion passes 5 yes. Okay, number 13's reports. Ms. Ann Taylor, would you like to share anything tonight?
I have no reports at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Number 14 then is new and unfinished business. I don't think there's any. Okay, then number 15 is public comment. Public comment is open. Public comment is open. If anybody would like to come forward, you may do so now to speak. Okay, then public comment is closed. Public comment is closed. Public comment is closed. Can we get a number 16?
Mr. President, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you all signify by aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Meeting is adjourned.